Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Michelle Malpass. I am the Director of Community Performance at Traction On Demand. So I'm really excited to talk to you. I'll start first with Traction for Good. So this is our community program. There are a ton of things we do in this program. We want to inspire philanthropy within Traction. We want to inspire social business. But one of the biggest things that we really focus on is building capacity in the nonprofit sector. We feel that we can provide the greatest value to our community if we give what we're good at. Sure, we can volunteer at the food bank, and these are all important things, or we could give our time for the Heart and Stroke Foundation, but where we can provide the most value is not just our time, but our skill. So over the last year, we have given around $220,000 in service grants to 41 different nonprofit projects. And these are typically the smaller organizations, 1 to 10 people, who could really use the support to get up and running on the platform. This year, we have also co-funded 9 different projects with other funders. This is something that is a huge focus, trying to get other people to also look at funding these very important projects for nonprofits. The other piece that makes this program possible is that Salesforce.org provides 10 free licenses to any registered charity. Without that piece, which is about a $15,000 annual value, we would not have this program. So that's a big thanks, and pretty impressive that the Salesforce has this one-woman model and is really big on the community. So this was our theme at last TractionForce. It was that every company is becoming a tech company. And for the organizations in the room, that all organizations are becoming a technology organization. And this is something that it is our new reality. Last year might have been a little bit new, but now we have implemented for Fortune 500 companies to a local dog walking company. We have done projects for the USA UN to a one-person organization. This is now our new reality, and it's something that we all have to adjust to. This year we are talking about the adaptive enterprise, and I'm going to do a little spoiler alert. There's going to be an amazing keynote at 1 o'clock this afternoon on the adaptive enterprise. And there's a couple pieces that I pulled out of it that I want to ensure that you guys are excited and are going to attend that as well. So the piece here, the best experience anywhere is the expected experience everywhere. And the relevance here to the nonprofit sector is that when people are experiencing, there's so many expectations now in terms of service, in terms of user experience, right? How are you nurturing your donors? How are people expecting a seamless experience for your programs? There's now almost a comparison between what they're feeling on the corporate side as well as on the nonprofit side. The other spoiler alert is these are only 4 of the 6 pillars that Greg will speak about. And the one thing I want to really emphasize here, I want to talk about the culture piece that is really more relevant to the nonprofit space. Of course, visibility onto all your data, that's very important, that it's accurate and relevant and timely. But the culture piece is an interesting one for the nonprofit space. So this is here is that do people trust change? And I know that when I was in the nonprofit sector, I was the former executive director of the Take a Hike Youth at Risk Foundation. Oh, Gordon, JD, there we go. I was one person. It was a $400,000 budget. I operated on a bunch of different Excel files. I was heavily reliant on volunteers. I had monthly board meetings. I mean, how quickly do you expect me to adapt, right? I mean, these are challenges, and there's a lot of constraints that organizations are working in. And change is hard. Change is stressful. There's a lot of things that we need to consider. And there's also some funding constraints that the nonprofit sector generally has to live with as well. So let's talk about a couple of those challenges before we go into the opportunity here. One of the things that this sector really needs is an equal partnership with funders. I know that sometimes when I felt that. With individuals, it's different. I'm talking more about corporations and foundations. I always felt that when I was going into an application, I couldn't talk to somebody, I couldn't ask questions. Or I was answering a question based on what I thought they wanted to hear, as opposed to what would really, truly help me. And I think there really needs to be that shift from this is what we need from you to what do you need from us. And it's a really big partnership piece that I really want to encourage us to explore more of. And why there is a table on there. But last year, somebody came up to me who I knew from my days at Take a Hike, and I explained what I was doing now in terms of running the community program for Traction. And so they asked me, so what's it like to be on the other side of the table? Like, oh, that's so exciting. I said, there's something fundamentally wrong with that. It's not about being on the other side of the table. we want to be on the same side. Like, there has to be more of a partnership. It's not about an us versus them. It's so important that we realize that we need to be working together on these issues. So the other piece about this challenge is, of course, the funding and capacity building, right? We've all heard that we will fund your programs and not your admin of those programs. And you're wondering how I'm going to tie a pink unicorn into this conversation. Is this. So there's this really cool blog out there. The name is super awkward. It's called Nonprofits with Balls. They've now recently renamed it to something even more awkward, so I'm not even going to tell you what it is. But it's a really cool blog. It's very thought-provoking. And one of the things that he talked about, he had an article on there about the admin and the overhead piece. And he said, OK, well, if you will only fund the program but not the administration of it, who's going to run this program? Elves and unicorns? Because that would be so fabulous, right? So all these things you see up here on this slide, so facilities, IT, equipment, leadership, fundraising, this is all considered an administration and overhead. And that's not fair. I mean, if a company doesn't invest in any of these things, do you think that they'll be very successful? Right? When a nonprofit invests in this, sometimes it's seen as, it's a bit detrimental. And, there's that double standard of they're being expected to adapt, but not with the budgets. And there's things where a company, if they're being successful, or if they are successful, their revenues will increase. But if a nonprofit is successful, when you have higher demand for your programs, and when you are being successful, your revenues don't increase, your costs do. Right? So funders need to adapt to that, and we need to be responsive and really work together on this challenge. So how we can do that, right, is bringing down those cross-sector walls. There are so many complex problems that we are dealing with right now, and government, nonprofit companies, this is something that we truly have to do more of. I know on the .org side, they've actually done some great collaboration, and they've truly crowdsourced the development of the Nonprofit Success Pack with the community of nonprofits and companies. And so there's some really neat examples of things that we can do to increase this cross-sector collaboration. One of the things that I feel that the relationship that we have, companies and nonprofits, is often fundraising related, right? So how much of your communication to companies or foundation is typically fundraising or reporting on what you've done? Those things are very important, of course, but I also think that there needs to be a higher level relationship if we are going to work together to solve these complex problems. So Traction on Demand is a B Corp. This is a movement of people using business as a force for good. It's an incredible community of companies working for social change. And their theme for 2017 is interdependence, which I am extremely, extremely excited about. So we need each other to succeed, right? There are such complex problems. There's less funding out there. We need to share our knowledge and our stories. You guys are experts. There is so much that, great, yes, you can learn from the corporate side, but also so much that you can teach and provide to the for-profit sector as well. A really positive piece of this is that there is a birth of a new market with this generational shift. We've all heard of want to work with purpose, and there's more social enterprises. Nonprofits are finding new ways to work within the funding constraints, and the social purpose business, of course, with B Corp. And I just want to say that there is a tremendous opportunity to partner with the for-profit sector so that we can solve these issues together. So on the adaptive piece of what it means to be an adaptive nonprofit and how you can leverage technology to be that, I want to quickly touch on what it is not. And what it is not is, of course, straying from your mission. Maybe on the company side, a company might have to pivot, but with an organization, it is so important that we stay true to that. If you rescue dogs and somebody says, I'll give you money to rescue cats, that's not what we mean, of course, by being an adaptive nonprofit. It's really important that we stick to that. And of course, things will change within our organization, programs will shift, but it's important that we stay true. One of the really neat things about being an adaptive nonprofit and leveraging technology is to really ask and act. So communication used to be relatively one way, and now it's really opened up, that there's a lot of more two-way communication. Social media, we've got a lot of more peer-to-peer work out there. And this is something that we continually have to ask and act on it. So, right, it's not just about collecting the data. That would be pointless. It's really important that we listen, and there's so much opportunity to listen and really act on it. what would make that a lot easier, right? It's sometimes easier said than done, is having all your data in one place. And I know that when I was at Take a Hike, sorry, Gordon and Jadine, this was 6 years ago. I don't know, not a lot of nonprofits had a lot of advances in technology. But I know that I had everything in different place, right? I had my donors over here, my volunteers, surveys over here, and I could never really get that 360 view of that person that was really important to my organization. And so I think that is something that, again, easier said than done, but that we all should strive to have for, so that we can build these reports out and really understand, make decisions based on what the needs are in our communities. This is a really important piece. So we've all heard the saying, you know, customers first, customers first. At Traction, it's not customers first. Sorry for those that are in the audience. It is really about Tractionites first. And the reason that is because if you take care of the people that work with you, if you empower them, if you give them opportunity and they're continuously learning, then they will actually do a wonderful job of taking really good care of customers. So it's really important. I think the nonprofit sector sometimes slips up on that, right? Because it's considered overhead, right, to invest in your people. So it's really important to do that, but also invest the time, if we're talking about technology here, is to invest it in the very beginning. And I know we're going to have a great lineup after us with a couple people from the Salesforce.org as well as a panel, and so you'll get to learn a little bit more about their experience with Salesforce. But I think in general, it's so important that we get it right from the beginning. We understand our processes and why we're doing it, and truly involve the people in the organization that are doing this. And if it's something that, you know, has always been done this way, it doesn't mean that it's the right way. So truly challenging your staff, looking at how we can adapt and change. Ongoing training is a really important piece for staff. It's something that is integral to being adaptable in this world today. And then trusted data. This might not seem like it fits with people, but it is, because bad data is super frustrating and it can really hurt people. It means that they have more work to do, and that's the last thing that we're trying to do with this. And I'm going to close here on this slide. So I feel like technology sometimes it's like wide-eyed and it's gotten a little complicated. And sometimes it doesn't work for us, right? Like we have more screen time. The whole point of these systems and the whole reason we're asking these questions and we want to adapt, the whole point of your organizations, what you're doing in the communities, we really need to focus on these more meaningful relationships. We want technology to give us more face time with our donors, not less. We want this data, the technology, to allow us to provide greater value to our community, not less. So I really want you to look and take that bigger picture of when you're looking at your systems. It can be super overwhelming when you're in there and you're down and your hands are dirty, but looking at what can this do for our team. So I really think that this is such an important point in time where the world needs everyone in this room and the nonprofits more than ever. So I'm really excited. You guys all have that being an adaptive nonprofit within reach, and it's really exciting where we're at right now. So thank you.